My husband demanded, transfer the house to my mother's name before I rethrn, or face divorce. But. Chapter 1. Ultimatum. Jane's hands trembled as she read the message on her phone. Her husband, Mark, had always been controlling, but this was a new low. They had built this house together, poured their savings, sweat and dreams into every brick and beam. And now, he wanted to take it away from her. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the living room where she stood. The photos on the mantelpiece, capturing happier times, seemed to mock her current predicament. Their wedding day, the first Christmas in the house, the vacations, they all felt like distant memories now. Transfer the house to my mother's name before I return, or face divorce. The words echoed in her mind, each one a blow to her already fragile heart. How had it come to this? Jane sank onto the couch, her eyes welling with tears. She had known their marriage was in trouble, but this demand was something she never expected. Mark had always been ambitious, driven, and sometimes ruthless in his career. She admired those qualities when they were dating, but over the years, that same drive turned inward, straining their relationship. The long hours at the office, the missed family dinners, the constant pressure to maintain an image, it had all taken its toll. Jane picked up her phone and dialed her best friend, Lisa. The phone rang a few times before Lisa answered, her voice cheerful as always. "Hey Jane, what's up?" Jane's voice cracked as she spoke. "Lisa, I need to see you. It's about Mark." There was a pause, and then Lisa's tone turned serious. "Come over. I'll put on some tea." Chapter 2. The Silent Drive. The drive to Lisa's house felt interminable. The 30-minute journey seemed to stretch out, each mile a reminder of the growing chasm between her and Mark. The radio played softly in the background, but Jane didn't hear the music. Her mind was racing with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and confusion. "What happened to us, Mark?" she whispered to herself. The roads blurred together as tears filled her eyes. She wiped them away, focusing on the road ahead. She needed to keep it together, at least until she reached Lisa's house. When she arrived, Lisa was waiting at the door, her face etched with concern. Jane stepped out of the car, and without a word, Lisa enveloped her in a tight hug. "Let's go inside," Lisa said softly. "We'll figure this out." Inside, the familiar warmth of Lisa's home offered a small comfort. Jane handed her phone to Lisa, letting her read the message. Lisa's eyes widened in shock as she read. "He can't be serious!" Lisa exclaimed, her voice filled with disbelief. Jane nodded, her tears flowing freely now. "I don't know what to do, Lisa. He's never been like this before." Lisa led Jane to the kitchen table, where 2 steaming mugs of tea awaited them. "First, we need to get you calm, and then figure out our next steps. You don't have to face this alone." Chapter 3. The Plan. As they sipped their tea, the 2 women brainstormed. Lisa, being a lawyer, offered a beacon of hope in Jane's stormy sea of emotions. "You have rights, Jane," Lisa said firmly. "This is your home too. He can't just force you to transfer it to his mother." "But what can I do?" Jane's voice quivered. "He's already talking about divorce." Lisa leaned forward, her eyes fierce with determination. "You fight back. We gather evidence of his controlling behavior, his threats. You don't have to face this alone." Jane took a deep breath, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Okay, but where do we start?" "First, we document everything," Lisa replied. "Every message, every call, every instance of his controlling behavior. We need a clear picture of what's been happening." Jane nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I can do that. What else?" "We'll also need to consult a counselor," Lisa continued. "A professional can help mediate and perhaps even save your marriage, but we need to be prepared for all outcomes." Chapter 4. Gathering Strength. Over the next few days, Jane meticulously documented every interaction with Mark. She saved messages, recorded phone calls, and kept a detailed journal of his behavior. The process was emotionally draining, but each entry fortified her resolve. Meanwhile, Lisa helped her draft a letter. It was firm yet compassionate, refusing to transfer the house, but expressing a willingness to attend counseling. Jane hoped this would show Mark that she was serious about working on their relationship, but not at the cost of losing her home. Jane also reached out to a marriage counselor, Dr. Stevens, who came highly recommended. She scheduled an appointment, hoping that professional guidance could help navigate the turbulent waters of their marriage. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. When Mark returned home, Jane was ready. She stood in the living room, her heart pounding in her chest. The front door opened and Mark stepped inside, his face a mask of anger. "Did you transfer the house?" he demanded, his voice harsh. Jane took a deep breath, steadying herself. "No, Mark, I won't do that, but I want to go to counseling. We need help." Mark's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Jane thought he might explode in rage. But then he surprised her. "Counseling? You think talking to some shrink is going to fix this?" "It's a start," Jane replied, her voice steady. "We built this life together. We should try to fix it together." There was a long silence as Mark stared at her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed and nodded. "Fine, I'll go to counseling. But this isn't over." Chapter 6. A Glimmer of Hope. To Jane's surprise, Mark agreed to attend counseling. The sessions were tough, peeling back layers of resentment and miscommunication. Dr. Stevens guided them through the process, helping them understand each other's perspectives. Mark realized how his actions were pushing Jane away, and Jane acknowledged her own role in their problems. They weren't magically fixed, but they were working on it, step by step. Mark began to see the damage his controlling behavior had done, not just to Jane, but to their relationship as a whole. He admitted that his demanding nature stemmed from a deep-seated fear of failure, something he had never shared with Jane before. Jane, on the other hand, opened up about her feelings of isolation and helplessness. She confessed that she often felt like she was walking on eggshells around him, afraid of triggering his anger. Chapter 7. Rebuilding Trust. Months passed, and while the road was still rocky, Jane and Mark were making progress. They learned to communicate better, to listen without judgment, and to respect each other's boundaries. The house, once a symbol of their conflict, became a symbol of their renewed commitment to each other. Jane looked out the window of their home, the morning sun casting a warm glow. She felt hopeful for the first time in a long while. They still had a long way to go, but they were moving forward, together. Mark made an effort to be more present, cutting back on his hours at work and spending more time at home. They rediscovered activities they enjoyed together, like hiking and cooking, finding new ways to reconnect. Epilogue. Moving forward. One evening, as they sat on the porch, Mark took Jane's hand in his. "I'm sorry for everything," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I never wanted to hurt you. I got lost." Jane squeezed his hand. "I know, Mark, and I'm sorry too. We both made mistakes, but we're learning. We're getting better." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the night sky. For the first time in a long while, Jane felt a sense of peace. They had faced the storm together, and while they were still weathering the aftermath, they were stronger for it. Jane knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew they had the tools to face them. Their journey was far from over, but they were on the right path, hand in hand, heart to heart. And that, she thought, was worth fighting for.